All right, and here we are on the Red Pill News. Red pill, take the red pill. I'm not going to talk about mass shootings tonight because they happen almost every day now in the United States of America. What I will talk about are the people who are doing them are obviously mentally unhinged. They are largely democratic in their views, in their political views. That to me that figures in. I don't try to. I'm not a party person. I don't try to pinpoint people on their party politics, but yet the movement of the Democrats for the last many years that have moved into a really unacceptable, irrational place. You look at Bill Clinton. He was a great president. He really was. I know you probably hate it when I say that, but he held things together. Yeah, things happened under him that was bad. Sure, you're not going to find any one agree 100% with anybody. I mean, who's in office? It's just if you do, that's unrealistic. So, but on today's standards, Bill Clinton would look like a Republican because of I mean he passed the crime bill. Joe Biden also voted for it to put 100,000 cops on the streets throughout the United States. They all agreed more the better, not less, not cut funding, not get rid of police. The more you do that, the more people are going to suffer. So I'll give you a situation. Here you have your really bad neighborhood situation, right? Criminals in the neighborhood committing crimes, getting arrested. They go through the system, stand in front of a judge. The judge says, "What this is what's going to happen. We're going to hold you. Put out a lot of bail so they can't get out. Whatever, right?" It was a system of checks and balances to a degree, you know. But then people came along saying there was racial disparity in within the system, that more black people got arrested for crimes and so on and so on. I watched Barack Obama said that there were the numbers are wrong in prison, that it should be more evened out, which is ridiculous to say. You're assuming that people commit crimes on all levels, and the fact of the matter is that in the United States of America, African Americans make up about 13%, but yet commit 54% of the crimes according to the FBI. You can't ignore that statistic. And it's not a racist statement. It's not a nasty statement. It's a truthful statement. It's what it is. It's something that needs to be fixed. And no matter what, of course, there's white people that commit crimes. Of course, in huge numbers. Obviously, you go look at jails. You're going to see a lot of them in there. Spanish people too, and Asian people too. All kinds of people. You don't need to be part of any group to commit a crime or not commit a crime. It really is up to the environment and what that environment dictates to the people around them, who live there. So now in New York City, you have a mayor, Mayor Adams, who I gave him a chance. I gave him a lot of chances. I mean, here we are, crossing into June. This guy, the crime in the city is getting worse. He has been in Beverly Hills on campaign fundraisers and hanging out with stars, Hollywood people. He even hung out with Dave Chappelle. You know, he needs not to do those things. He needs to do what he was hired to do, is help fix New York and help get on top of the crime. He needs not to blame anyone else for these crimes except the criminals themselves, right? But in the city now, you have a lot of judges, you have a district attorney who is letting people go. They're catching people and they're letting them go. And when they let them go, they're committing even worse crimes. You're giving them the green light to commit crimes. You're saying go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. And they're doing it in the name of race. But who are they helping? Who are they helping? All right, you arrested the black guy who committed the crime, and you think that there's too many in jail, so you want to release him into the streets. Where's he going to go? He's going to go back to his the same neighborhood where he committed crime, the same neighborhood where he got arrested, the same neighborhood where he's torturing the other people who live there, who are not criminals. The ones who have to be there, who are stuck. There's a lot of people in America who are stuck. They can't leave where they are because they don't have the money to do it. You know? Oh man, we can give the Ukraine $40 billion. We can peel off bucks for every stupid thing that comes along too on top of that, and not to help our own people though. And you know, as far as I see it, if I connect the dots, I see a political body that enjoys keeping people at a certain level so they can get those votes and then blame the other party for their disparity, right? Is what they do. They're blaming the other party. That's all. The Republicans are this, and the Republicans do it too. The Democrats are that. They're all bad, aren't they? And none of them complete the circuit. You can look at both parties, and you may have interests, things you like, or things that you don't like, and things that you want to fix. Not either party has all of those interests, all those check boxes. So then you have to look at one or the other, whatever candidate comes along, and they're all money people now. All of them. Look at AOC. She tries to act like she's for the people. She hasn't done anything for the people in the Bronx or Queens. She goes to the big parties. She doesn't live in those areas. She has a really high end apartment in DC. She's backed by billionaires. What's the difference of that and whatever else robot they decide to put in? You know, it's they have learned. The people who run the system have learned what people like, what they don't like. They have surveys. They have all kinds of polls that they do. They take that information, they data mine it, and they compile it. Who's the best person that we can put forward that's going to be just the spokesperson to the people, right? And that's who they put in. That's who they put out there, right? They chose her out of 10,000 people. She was the winner. She fit the bill. They chose her because of her sexuality, her race, everything. So okay, you got this person in there, and then look at the stuff that she's done. Look at the stuff that she said or even suggested. She's no political scientist and she's no engineer. She was a bartender. Not saying a bartender can't run something, but you have to have ideas to run something. She had no ideas. They approached her, and her handlers are billionaires. They tell her what to do and what to say, right? And this has become the political system of bought and sold politicians on both sides, and the trust is gone. There's no trust within the United States for people in politics, and they feel like they're hopeless, voting, 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 and then you see what gets in there. So it's come down to people pointing the finger and blaming and whatever. This shooter who went into a school in Texas and shot, those children are 94% Latino, and the shooter himself was Latino. It's a very poor area, very poor town. Apparently, Matthew McConaughey grew up there. But the sad part is, of course, 19 dead kids. It didn't need to happen. The warning signs were missed. But why were the warning signs missed? I mean, when this guy was cutting his face up, why wasn't he brought to a psychiatrist? Why didn't he get his mental health? Putting himself out there as what, putting eyeliner on and posing and doing all the stuff he was doing, that in of itself is harmless. You look at Prince and people like that. But cutting your face, you cry for help. You can't ignore something like that. Making threats against others. And then if he had, see, in Texas, like New York is so different. If you're mental in New York, you can't get a gun unless you buy the, off the street, like illegal firearms. In Texas, it's like more of an open market where you can get guns, and there's a lot of loopholes that need to be closed, but they don't want to do it because they feel like any step in that direction, the Democrats, who always push for massive gun control, want to push it further, right? You have people who are unrealistic. Then you have people, the argument is back: assault weapons, this, that. And let me tell you, man, that's somebody who is a weapons expert, somebody who knows guns back and forth. That guy could have walked in there with a shotgun too and done the same thing. So it's not about the so-called assault weapon. Any weapon, in police terminology, any weapon used for an assault is an assault weapon. They're saying assault weapon because they look like military weapons and that type of thing. Even if they didn't, even if they had a wood stock and painted a different color or whatever, they would still function the same way. So in New York, you can't hunt with those rifles either, AR-15 or anything like that, or AR-10. Because the bullets travel too far. So you're talking about at least 2,100 miles per hour, like three times the speed of sound. You fire these weapons, it actually makes a sonic boom. They're loud. So it's not a question of who should be able to own. No, no, yeah, I guess it is, but more like you're restricted. Okay, someone likes to have a lot of alcohol. They go out and they kill a bunch of people in their car. Do they make the alcohol illegal? No. The responsibility is on the person that does these things. Uh, the guy in France, the terrorist, drove over 80 people and killed them with a truck. They make trucks illegal. No, it doesn't matter. Knives, guns, you push people out of windows or whatever the hell it is, a bomb. Dead is dead. You need to stop the bogey before they strike. You need to have intelligence and police that know what they're doing, that aren't you know idiots. When they had the shooting in Florida, that sheriff had to resign because his whole department was inept. They mishandled it. People were needlessly killed that didn't have to be killed because of his misdirection. The guy actually went on CNN's town hall meeting, speaking out against all the NRA and guns and whatever. Meanwhile, it was that sheriff. They visited that kid like 19 times, the one who did the shooting. The kid had guns. He was making threats to the school and other people he knew 19 times. A lot of those were for domestic disturbances. You can't do anything with someone like that. So I researched, the area in Texas where the shooting happened. They have zero beds available for psychiatric patients. They have no help for young people who have any kind of condition or whatever. So when you look at a democratically elected government, United States, you got Joe Biden in there, who I believe he doesn't even know where he is, most of the time. I think if you asked him what the date was, he wouldn't even know, or even what year it is. What year is it? I bet he doesn't know. That's it. If I would be asking him cognitive questions if I was a reporter. Not questions about anything else, no Ukraine or whatever. I'd be asking him, "Do you know where you are, sir? And do you know what day it is? What month it is?" You know what I mean? Because I don't think he does. I think that he's really that far gone. And behind him, you got Kamala Harris, who may surprise people if she has to become president by default. May surprise people. Right now she's cackling Kamala because she doesn't really go out there and say anything except these things that they write for her, and she doesn't really have a clue to say anything. Vice presidents largely didn't really do much, right? Open up the ice cream parlor, or go have a slice of pizza with so and so in Staten Island or whatever, right? For the photo op, and that's kind of what they do. So, but with this leadership, you would think that they would make funds available to every state. And I don't want to hear, oh, but the states take it and do different stuff. You can designate funds specifically for a purpose and be used for that purpose, specifically for a purpose. And mental health is a crisis going on in the US. Mental health is all different levels, isn't it? People could be mildly depressed. That's a mental health issue. People could be psychotic. They want to go hurt other people because they're hurting so bad. And what I'm hearing from the left, unfortunately, are these excuses. They don't make excuses for the guy that walked in Buffalo and killed all those people. His self-designated white supremacist, that idiot. Instead, they make excuses for these other ones, the ones who are Democrat. Isn't it funny? Oh, because they've suffered and that's why they did it. They suffered at the hand of the other party and that's why they did it. And there is always some kind of excuse. So it doesn't matter what color they are. It doesn't matter what religion they are. It doesn't matter. It just matters that they're killers. And a lot of them could be stopped, could have been stopped. but the police messed up. So does that sound like a situation you want to cut funding to the police for less police on the street? Is that going to solve the problem? Obama today in a speech had the nerve and the audacity to bring George Floyd into this Texas shooting situation. One thing has nothing to do with the other. Zero zilch, right? But that's the sales pitch. That's the angle. That's what they want to push out there. It's been 2 years, George Floyd, whatever. Let me tell you, Obama, 19 children are dead, two teachers. George Floyd doesn't figure in. It's not the same situation. It wasn't a cop that did it, but he vilified the police. He took the moment talking about a massacre in Texas and vilified the police. Now, did those police in Texas act accordingly? A lot of information is coming out saying that they didn't. And there's a lot of questions on why the guy was in there for over an hour, 90 minutes, hour and a half. All the initial reports was that he kind of crashed his grandma's truck and ran into the school with his gun, right? He was being chased by police. He jumps out with his guns and runs into a school. Quite a long run to get into a school. Why, if they were in hot pursuit and they were right there and they were on his ass and they saw him jump out with these guns and run towards the school, why didn't they stop him? Why? So he had quite a run to that school, apparently. Why didn't they stop him? That's going to be the question of the day for the sheriff there. So I don't have a high opinion of Texas. I think that a lot of them are shit kickers that are there, and I'll say that happily, joyfully. I had bad experiences in Texas, me myself, of just driving through the place. I was stopped by a police officer and harassed. You know, for no reason, no nothing, no nothing. Just driving through, right? Pecos, Texas. And this guy stopped. Oh, you see a Z28 Camaro with New York license plates, and he's gonna stop me and ask me a bunch. Some young shit kicker. So that's what he is. Shit kicker. You tell him go kick some shit. Leave me alone. But and then two older cops actually came along and told him to take off. Like, why are you harassing this dude? But it doesn't matter. Because yeah, it could be just you and that one shit kicker on some highway in the middle of the night, and he can say whatever he wants to say because they have a badge. They're the judge, jury, and convictioner of society, aren't they? They can say or do whatever they want to. Oh, now they have cameras on their vests that they can shut off. Too much of a thing there. They can shut it off. But then you have Biden on this kick who wants to curb slice. So in the aftermath of the shooting, he comes out against the police. Now, I'm all for for what do police are not. I'm all for more funding for the police so they can have better training, so they don't do stupid things, right? And also the hiring process. Hire people who aren't crazy, because a lot of these cops I knew were guys who were like really hardcore out of their minds, and then they got drunken on power once they became police officers, and listening to them talk and what stuff that they would say, I'm like, oh my god, and the stuff they would do to people in the city, you know, uh, it just is amazing just hearing them talk, very nonchalant about things that they would do. So, and don't you think the people in those neighborhoods are affected by that? They see it, they understand it, they know the police aren't their friends. They should be. They should be the protectors of that society. They should look at every person on that street like I'm here to serve and protect them as my job. But they don't. They look at them like they're criminals. They're going to commit some crimes. So anyway, President Biden is poised to sign orders curbing policing to commemorate the 2-year anniversary of George Floyd. This is what they're doing. It's in the wake of this shooting, this mass shooting. And this is what they're doing. They've politicized it. They're just using it. And George Floyd, yeah, the guy shouldn't have killed him. That's for sure. There's a lot of different opinions, but he wouldn't have had a cop in his face if he didn't commit a crime. But the crimes he committed didn't equal the death penalty. You know what I mean? But apparently he was on a lot of drugs at the same time, so it all figured in. But yeah, what that cop did was wrong, and that cop got convicted and they got put in jail. And the other cops are on the same thing, the ones who stood there and watched him and didn't stop him. So all right. So despite the ongoing violent crime wave in the United States, especially New York Mayor Eric Adams, that's what got Eric Adams into office because he was a transit cop and he was pro police and they said, let's put this guy in office. He's going to help us with our problem because De Blasio let crime run out of control and laughed at people the entire time. Right. So let's see. So here we are. Biden's telling Eric Adams and mayors everywhere from D.C. to San Francisco to cut funding, cut more funding, take more things away from the police. So he wants to see he'll order the creation of a national registry of cops fired for misconduct and establish policies to incentivize local governments to restrict chokeholds and no knock warrants. So remember, chokeholds were supposed to be illegal. Yeah, they are illegal, aren't they? But yet they're not illegal because every time they say they're going to make them illegal, they don't. So yeah, they could do the chokeholds and all that stuff. No knock warrants. You know how many times the cops busted down somebody's door, goes in there and kills them, and they weren't even the person. They killed that one lady. She was eating her ice cream. She was sitting there. A nurse after a long shift goes home, and she's sitting there on her couch, naked, eating ice cream. These cops bust the door down and kill her. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get that. No knock warrants and whatever. They should they should know where the hell they're going and what the address is, right? But and he also wants to restrict the transfer of surplus military gear to cops because the military gives all that stuff to police agencies, the Hummer things and whatever, and extra body armor, that type of stuff. I'll say this. I don't like the tactical gear on police officers. If it's a situation where you need it, that's good. But if it's a situation where you don't, I was at a Hess gas station one time online, and this police officer you're on the vast had and all his utility belt was three times as that man. He looked like an idiot. People were laughing because he's also real short, micro mini. You know what I mean? But you don't trust me. It, it be in New York, unless it's chasing somebody, uh, put an ankle bracelet on them and stop them from using on the shit. They're talking about disarming cops now, which is pretty funny. But it's the community officer. It's supposed to be your average citizen out there is afraid of a police officer. They're afraid when you're driving down the road going 30 miles an hour, and then here comes you're coming upon a police officer going 25. Going on, and people are afraid to go the speed limit because of persecution. They don't want to go through the process. They don't want to go through the stop. They don't want to have some cop say all this stuff to them. I was coming down the I was we're heading actually going to a studio where I did my television show. I think so. I couldn't see out my back window was all frosted. It just left them all, put the defroster on, so it was all frosted. I'm in the lane, going down, going speed limit is 55. I'm going probably 60, 61, right? And there's a car and a couple cars in the right lane. All of a sudden, this dude gets on my ass, man. And I mean, this guy came so close to me, I couldn't see his headlights anymore in my rear view mirrors. He had to have been a foot away from me, literally, right? Which freaked me out. And I didn't want to like step on it and go 75 to get in front of the car that was in the right lane, so I can let this maniac pass, right? So I just maintained my speed. I got in front of the other car. I signaled. I got over. Then I plastered my middle finger against the window as the asshole passed me. You know who it was? It was a sheriff's deputy in Tompkins County, right? I give him the finger. He sees that. He just gets behind me and pulls me over, right? And then he's like, "What's your problem, sir?" And I said, "You know what? You just tailgated me for the last 3/4 of a mile, a foot away, driving aggressively. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you trying to do?" And then the guy says, he looks at my car and looks at me. He's like, "You know how many things I can find wrong with your car right now if I wanted to?" He said that to me, right? So then he's like, I was licensed, registration, insurance card. I gave him the information. Problem. Where are you going to, sir? And first, this is even cooler. He looks at my name, Michael Angley, and it was a household name because I had caused a lot of ripples in the Ithaca community back in the day. It was a household name, literally, but more infamous than famous, So he's like, "Michael Angley, Channel 13." He said that. Yep, that's me. Then the guy gets all nervous and he can't control his breathing. He's like, "Oh," he like, "Where are you going, sir?" I said, "To the television station to do a show about you." You know? And he's like, "Well, I know I could be an asshole. I'm sorry, you don't have to watch my driving." The cop apologized to me saying he could be an asshole. He's a shit driver. Yeah, only because I had a TV show. That's the only reason. Because I had a show. He was afraid I was going to plaster his crap name all over the airways. And I did. And I did. And I did. I think I talked about that dude for 6 months. I'm still, it's back in the 90s. I'm still talking about it. But yet, that cop on the highway at 2 o'clock in the morning, messing with somebody who doesn't have a TV show, some regular old person, he's going to cause them trouble. And he said it. You know how many things I could find wrong? You know what I said to him when he said that? Go ahead. I just had the car inspected, which I did like 2 days before. Go ahead. Look for things that are wrong. I will fight you until the end. I will win and I will drag your skull through some people. Look at this piece of crap that happened. And I was known for that. I was known for that. The DA came after me in Tompkins County because of my show, said I was lewd, crude, obnoxious, and obscene. That guy's dead now. He lost his job. He moved to Albany, had a massive heart attack on the court steps. He's gone. And you know what? It's a matter of doing the right thing, a matter of doing the right thing for yourself, the people around you. And then if there's a battle worth fighting, the battle ain't over until the last thing is done. You know what I mean? There's only one fool left. The battle goes on, and that's it. So yeah. Anyway, less cops, no. More training, yeah. And a way to hold people accountable. You know, aside from calling the sheriff, who didn't care at the time, I should have been able to contact that department and say, "Listen, this is what happened. This is an incident. This guy was threatening. He threatened me. You know what I mean? He drove recklessly. He could have hurt me and other people too on the road. So but there's nothing like that. There was nothing. And if you just called, it falls on deaf ears. They don't care. They don't care. That's the problem. That's the problem. So yeah, more training, more training, right? And yeah, you want to get rid of the tactical gear. They shouldn't have tactical gear. It's just yeah, sure. If it's a SWAT team, they should. If it's a regular old schmo, police officer driving down the road giving out tickets. The last thing you need to feel like you're being approached by some paramilitary guy. You know what I mean? You just want, you know what you want, like state troopers who are New York State troopers who are professional. I've always found them to be professional. Never found them to be anything but. But local town cops and sheriff's department, you're going to find a lot of people who aren't like state troopers. And state troopers have a really high standard, even their hiring standard. You know what I mean? But the other police agencies do not. But yeah, you can be going through some little town in the middle of the night, and you're going to catch the podunk cop, and he might have it. Oh man, if you come from the city, I'm from New York City originally, man. When I moved upstate, they hold that against you. We're in the same state. They don't care. You city boy. You city boy. All right. Let's see. The restrictions and transfers of military equipment. They're doing all that. The former President Barack Obama 2015 freeze on the Pentagon's. Obama was in there for 8 years, and he's like complaining about stuff that happened when he was in there that he did. I don't know what a difference a day makes. So aside from this, all this other stuff, let me get off this because we, as a people, need somebody in charge who knows what they're doing, man. And like, Obama's out there pledging to defend Taiwan if it faces a Chinese attack, saying, yeah, we'll send troops in and defend them vigorously, right? See, the Easter Bunny wasn't there to stop them. At Easter, they had, when he was saying that stuff, the Easter Bunny cut in, grabbed his shoulder, and looked so confused. like he got into Hunter's stash or something, started seeing the Easter Bunny telling you, okay, sir. I think that was Obama in there, that Easter Bunny costume anyway, or Hillary. Okay, shut up. The Easter Bunny comes over and says, shut up. Shut up. Oh, Easter Bunny. Shut up. So, yeah, it's in our Constitution that we have to actually defend Taiwan. We give them a lot of weapons and stuff like that, sell them gear and that type of stuff too. China considers Taiwan a state of China. But what I find cool about the out of control Biden, because they backpedaled after he said this. He didn't. They did. His handlers came out saying, "Well, he didn't really mean that." They do that all the time, and they don't like what he says. He didn't really mean that. Didn't really mean it. Sound like he meant it. But what was cool? What I found cool is now you have China, Xi Jinping, looking at Russia being decimated by the Ukrainians with shoulder weapons. I mean, they shot down another airplane, a Wagner group. This guy was an ex-general who retired, and he went for the Wagner group. The Wagner group is Putin's own private army. He has his own little private army, airplanes, helicopters, and everything, aside from the Russian army. This dude, this another general, was flying over in another one of these fighter craft, Stinger missile. And what's interesting to be a sniper pilot, what they call these Russians, their sniper pilot, right? Which is what this general was. It is 8 to 10 to 12 years of training and about $10 million to do it over that time. They lost all those pilots. They've shot down a lot of aircraft. And these are it tells you about the technology, and it tells you about being overly confident, because the Ukrainians are using shoulder weapons, stingers, and other things like the javelin to take tanks out. I've never seen tank turrets pop the way they do, and I have a very different view on Russia, which mostly everybody does now, of how weak they really are and how overpumped I think that they were. So at the same time, you have China watching this, right? And China's watching Russia get their asses kicked. Essentially, they should have been done already. They should have had the Ukraine already. They should have been overdone. Now they're watching them lose. What the Pentagon said they lost over 1,000 tanks, 1,000 tanks, and those T-90s cost like $4.5 million bucks, American wise. tanks, helicopters. I think they said over 100 helicopters. Uh, fixed wing aircraft. You got a couple hundred of those that got shot down, and they're estimating around 30,000 Russian troops that are dead, not including the ones who took off and went AWOL and that or don't want to fight. So you have the world watching, and then here's Biden threatening China, like, yeah, you going to Taiwan, we're gonna kick your ass. you know, and then a whole battle group went right through past those islands that China's trying to claim, and they harass anybody going down that waterway because they're trying to claim it as their own, right? Even though 13 countries share the same waterway, but and then we floated a battle group, aircraft carrier, destroyer, frigates, all of this stuff going through there. And at the same time, he's like, yeah, you think you're going to go into Taiwan? We're going to defend it. We're not even defending the Ukraine. We're just giving them stuff, right? We're giving them stuff. For the Germans, I don't know what the Germans are doing. The Germans gave them a bunch of artillery with no shells. So you know what a gun is worth with no bullets? Nothing. Nothing. You know what your car is worth without any gas? Nothing. It's a pretty planter at that rate. So that's why I like a katana. You know what I mean? But it really comes down to uh, resources. And as the Russians are trying to refill and get their diesel up there and do all their stuff, the Ukrainians are taking out their supply lines, and they're being smart about it. Usually, we're giving them intelligence, and the UK is supplying intelligence. Israel just denied giving the Ukraine anything lethal. They supplied them with helmets and you know body armor because they don't want Russia to take anything out on the Ukraine, Israel, because Russia is deeply embedded in Syria now, right? And Israel's got enough trouble with Syria, whatever. I just think that they're not. Israel's Israel. Israel's out for Israel. If you think Israel's going to help anybody, if they don't have an interest in it, you're sadly mistaken. So anyway, that's the problem there. That's the problem there. So it's I think it's a mess. It's cascading. It's getting worse. It's changing and morphing. You know, the biggest problems are the food shortages around the world because Ukraine supplies so much wheat. They're not the only supplier of wheat, but they're a big supplier of wheat. To the point where a lot of third world countries are talking about sending their troops into the Ukraine to escort the grain to the ships and escort the ships because the Russians have a blockade of the whole Black Sea area. So they can't get their ships out of there with the grain. So Egypt is the first one saying, we'll send in ships and troops and all that. You know what I mean? And it's gonna go on. As soon as one puts their toe in the water, the rest of them will follow. Because not only do they get to get their grain and do this, but they also get to spit in the face of Putin. You know how much people hate that guy? Really hate him, especially now. People talking about the shooting, 19 kids dead, and I'm thinking like, man, that's horrible. And then look at the war of Ukraine, how many kids are dead, and look around the world, numbers of dead kids in the sub-Saharan regions in Africa and all that. And you think that people could do something about these things, but they don't. They just use it as political ammo. That's all they do, and then nothing ever gets done. So it's worse than getting really worse. And I think that with the high gas prices, high diesel prices, especially not subsidizing the truck drivers, which we should be doing, 40 billion to the Ukraine, but yet we're not subsidizing, especially run on diesel. Those trucks run on diesel. The least they could do is subsidize. So Biden wants to release a million gallons of diesel out of our strategic reserves. Well, a million gallons, and how many use every day? 10. That's not even going to help. Not even in the least. It's just not even going to help. Nothing. Nothing. They need to put passion and subsidize and help people out because That affects all the stuff, all the food, whatever. But yet, what's this headline? You're going to love this one. Oil giants reap record profits as war rages in Ukraine. Energy prices soar. And so, let's see. Profits for global shell was by the billions, despite significant costs of exiting operations. So they say that they needed to charge more money per barrel, even though it's a traded thing and it's a futures market and it basically works on fear and loathing. But it's they say they but yet you wouldn't have record profits if that was true. So obviously they're making much more than the product is actually worth. And at the same time, they're stealing your money. And when you go to the store and that box of food you used to pay is $3 more and everything costs 50% more, 25, 40% more, and you see the gas prices that they were under $3 a gallon. The ones that are around me when Trumpy was in there. As soon as Biden went in there, as their Green New Deal, you want to push the electric car, you want to push all this other stuff, which is fine. But yet there's no cars to be bought. They're all bought up for years now. People are on waiting lists, right? What are people supposed to do to get to work and back? And people are poor. The middle class are poorer because they're the ones who have to pay to get to work. They got to put gas in their car and get to work. They've got to feed their family. Oh, so instead of buying roast beef, you can buy bologna. People are living. It's harder. Life is becoming harder. Why? Because fear and loathing and because of mismanagement of this government and fear of these oil companies. So it's Memorial Day weekend. The prices are going to go up another 50, 60, 70 cents a gallon. Oh, then you're going to have hurricane season start up. Oh, there's threats in the Gulf and all that other stuff. And it's going to give them more. If you see gas at $10 a gallon, that's not too far off, is it? You know, not too right. It's seven in a lot of places now. $8 for diesel. I mean, around here, I mean, I put gas in the other day. It was over $5 a gallon. I think I paid 5.16. I put 89 octane in there because I don't do the lower because they use that for lawnmowers and not for cars. Their answer is put more ethanol. Ethanol is crap. You don't get any mileage out of it, and it ruins your engine. It's ethanol. It's not made for engines. There's something, it's an additive that they do. But come on, man. So how do you feel about the oil companies getting richer and all those people? You know, I don't know. I'm going to ask Kanye West. I'll tell Kanye. I just saw him a picture in these gigantic boots, like boots that a giant would wear. And I'm thinking, this guy is just so crazy. He is lucky that people pay him to be crazy because I don't get paid at all to be crazy, not a dollar. I do it for free every day, as a matter of fact. So now he's announcing a deal with the crazy man with the giant boots is going to redesign their McDonald's packages. He's getting together with the clown, the McDonald's clown, right? With the Muji designer Naoto Fukuswana. And then you go to McDonald's. I don't go to McDonald's now, right? I refuse to because much of what they put in their food isn't food. So I know that. There you go. The Atlanta-based rapper took his completely wiped Instagram account. So he wiped his account out. Now he's back because he's out of the. So he was only in a mental institution for what, a couple of weeks. is that enough time to really tackle his problems? I don't think so. I don't think so. And his idea was to repackage McDonald's stuff. He's probably sitting there eating some McDonald's, saying, "I can repackage this." Let's see. He posted an Instagram story featuring a box that could be the latest packaging for a McDonald's sandwich. Below the box, he wrote, "Next week, it's the fries." A line from his 2005 late registration song. I can't even name this guy's song. I have no idea. I just know that he wants to Kill that dude. That's it. You know, he wants to go after Skeet. He calls him Skeet. While he mentioned Fuckaswana. Fuck it. How you say it? Fuckasaw. Fuckasaw. Saw. Sawa. Why can't I say that? Fuckasawa. Fuckasawa. That's the name. Fuckasawa. You got say something three times. So in his latest Instagram post, the Japanese industrial designer, best known for working with Japanese retailer Muji, Fuji's brother Muji, has yet to make any comment about the purported project. Several of you surprised about his comeback on Instagram, especially considering that the rapper has been quiet in a mental institution. Gotta say though, Yee most about McDonald's was not what fans were expecting. Hey man, I think he just wants to change the packaging. It pissed him off. He doesn't like it. So this is what crazy men do, and he gets paid for that. That's what gets me. He's getting paid for this, paid for that. Ugh. So, and I mean, do we have time to talk about Will Smith? Will Smith, since his career's over, basically, he's still milking that. So he goes on David Letterman, right? And he he said he anticipated his latest life shift at his career would be destroyed earlier. Candid sit down station with David next show that he David even on Netflix. It's like I read Netflix because of horrible content. So I wouldn't watch him anyway. But yeah, my next introduction, which was taped months before the viral slap. So no jokes there. Smith recalled a premonition of the sort of experience while under what he claims the effects of Hollywood, basically. No, if what was it? Ayahuasca, a psychoactive herbal drink that reportedly holds some hallucinogenic. Why people have some whiskey or something? How much you want to bet? she gave him some fancy drink. Drink this. He's like, oh, okay. See, I take him as not a smart guy and a very goofy guy. I used to really like him, and it wasn't the slap that made me not like him. It was because he slapped a guy and he didn't fall down. You know, like Chris Rock weighs like 90 pounds, man. You know what I mean? It's like slapping over a feather. And then I don't know. I think that his ego's gone out of control. I think that he has shortfalls with his own mother and his own family, even though he's close to his mom. But I know his mom was abused by the father and whatever. And I think that he's overcompensating and putting love in an area where there's no love anymore. Once it's over, dude. You know what I mean? There's really no going back. No matter how much you think you can, there's no going back. So anyway, he said, once you drink this drink, you're going to see yourself in a way you've never seen yourself before. That happened to me with mescaline one time when I was like 20 years old. On the one, one it was horrible. One of the experiences was the individual most hellish psychological experience in my life. Smith said he had a vision that his palatial home, his wealth, and his unparalleled career would be ripped from him during a spell of 2 years, which he explained ingesting the psychedelic drug. Yeah, while his wife was hanging out ingesting that rapper. You know, the dude for 2 years. She had a 2 year relationship with the guy. And then she was talking about it on the air. She had Will Smith come on her show and told about it there, and he melted down. This is not a nice person. She doesn't care about him, and he's hanging in there. It's very sad and pathetic to see something like that. That's why I lost because he's beyond blue pill, you know, and he's in the realm of just he doesn't have his own freedom for himself. He's controlled by somebody who doesn't know how to control anything. So anyway, but he's blaming it on the psychedelic drink and whatever. That was just very funny to me. I just wanted to read that to you. I'm going to end the show there because I have to end the show. Unfortunately, I will see you guys next week. I want to talk about Jurassic Park and Laura Dern and Sam Neill talking about their 20-year age gap in the original movie, and now she's saying because of patriarchy, you know, it shouldn't have happened. And meanwhile, that has nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? A 20-year difference between two people, it's not a terrible thing. And we see in Hollywood a lot of women going for younger men. So we'll talk about that next week. I'll see you next week on Red Pill News. Good night from United Public Radio Network, UPRN Talk Radio.com. Bye.